Alright, Shalom, welcome back. Now we're going to be doing lesson number 15. So without further ado, let's begin. Vayomer, and he said, Itzkiyahu, and Itzkiyahu said, El unto Yeshayahu, Tov, good, Devar Moshe is the word of Moshe, Asher, which Dibarta, you spoke. So as you can see in this lesson, I had to change the word of the Lord as to Moshe, only for the sake of not putting, of course, God's name in written form, because we don't do that. So you still got the concept, and you'll still be able to translate it when you do the book, but you'll be able to better understand how we work here. So, without further ado, let's be over here. So, once again, we notice we see Vayomer is repeated quite often in Biblical Hebrew. So there's one of the words that you're going to see is quite repetitious. So here we know this is a Vav conversive. Okay. Vav conversive. Alright. We know here we got our pronoun. We know the left is Amar, which is a verb. So we have and, he said. Alright? Now, the next word is Yitzkiyahu. So we know Yitzkiyahu. If we have things like nouns, proper nouns, that we're going to notice that normally come after a verb narrative like this, you can predominantly make the guesstimation, if the context is absolutely going to prove itself to be true, that this is the subject of the verb. So now, we're going to transliterate this, okay? We're going to go Chitz Ki Ya U, okay? Chitzkiyahu. So the CH is the Ch sound. So I'm going to make this capital because it should be capital. So the Ch, Chitzkiyahu, alright? And of course you're just going to eliminate he, and you're going to put obviously the and Hitzkiyahu said in here. One thing you have to understand, which you can absolutely do, and you're going to see this all throughout Biblical Hebrew, is notice the nouns, the proper nouns, okay? If you notice the proper nouns, we can break up the root in the proper noun. Here we have two roots. Chet, Tzadik, Tzayin, Kaf. So chazak means to be strengthened, okay? To be strong. And last, we have the root, yud. We have hey, yud, hey, which is haya, okay? This is where we get the name of God from. It comes from the verb haya. Haya means to be, okay? So in this form, it is yud, hey, vav, which is the word that we have will be, okay? Because what does God's name really mean? What does Yod He Vav He mean? It means He will be. So when we look at Yod He Vav He, we said He will be. We look at the fact that God's name carries within it all of the actual tenses of existence. So we have Haya, it was. We have Hoivei, will be, and Yihyeh, or Hovei is, and Yihyeh will be. So here, these are the two roots that we're going to notice that are coming from here. So this is where we understand when we're breaking apart a name, we're asking, what does the name come from, the meaning? So here's Chazak, to be strengthened or strong, and we have the word Haya, which is where we get the word for the Lord. So literally this means here, the Lord is strengthened, or strengthened is the Lord, okay? So this is where we get the chazak, right? So Chitzkiyahu is just literally chazak and haya together, okay? And understand the fact that when you're looking at God's name ever used, just understand that this is the root, hey, yud, hey. That's really what the root is, okay? Because it's the root of existence, okay? It's the meaning of existence, okay? So It doesn't literally mean to exist, but understand it's the verb of existence that we utilize in biblical Hebrew. Okay, so as I said here, Hiskiah, say Hiskiyahu, so strengthen is the Lord. Okay, El, here we have the preposition, so we have the fact that we know this is a preposition. Okay, prepositions, always remember, prepositions mean that we're going to have an object. Okay, whenever we have a preposition, we're always going to have an object. And so here the object is Yeshayahu. So Yeshayahu, we'll transliterate this. Yesh a ya u. Okay, Yeshayahu, right? So Yeshayahu, that is the transliteration. Okay? And I'm always going to use transliterations because I just feel like it's easier and better to remember the name in Hebrew than it is to get confused with an English transliteration. So here we have Yeshayahu, El. So we have to know that when we're looking at El and we have a preposition, remember El and the preposition, this is the prepositional phrase. This is what we use in biblical Hebrew as the prepositional phrase. It's the preposition with the object. So the object and the preposition together creates the prepositional phrase. So Tov is the word good. Here we have an adjective. Now, this adjective, there's two types of adjectives that we are going to be seeing in Hebrew. One's called a predicate adjective, and the other one is going to be the subjunctive adjective, okay? So when we're using adjectives, typically when we think of an adjective in a normal thinking, when we're talking, we typically think of the adjectives by the ways of like saying, like a righteous man, where it's a word that's used to describe a noun. So okay, we see the adjective as a righteous man. Okay, when you're saying good is the word of the Lord, this is a different form of the adjective we're using. Okay, so in this case we're using the predicate adjective, and this is used to precede the noun, and it agrees, as we will see, with the noun in gender and a number, but it doesn't necessarily agree with its definiteness, which means that if this is, as we see here, definite, okay, which is our noun construct, okay, so over here is our noun construct, and we see that the Moshe is a definite noun, okay. Well, notice this does not carry the definite article on it, hatov, okay. We would think that when we have something with regard to an adjective, that the adjective is going to be, but this is when we're talking about adjectives that describe from a different point of view. That's why we say like a righteous man versus the righteous man. If you said the righteous man, then you're going to find that in that state the hey article is present. But here, because this is a different form by which you utilize, this is the predicate adjective, this is going to be only, it needs to follow the gender and the number, okay? So if it was, for example, divrei ha-navi'im, the words of the prophets, okay? Then we'd have to change tov to tovim, okay? Because why? Divrei ha-navi'im is plural, so we're talking about a plural masculine subject, so then we'd have to change tov to tovim. We'd have to make that plural. Notice again that the tov would not be definite, okay, even though divrei ha-navi'im would be definite in this case. So tov, and then here we have the noun contract, like I said. So here's our noun construct. All right, remember the first one is the construct state. So the first noun in the noun construct is always the one at the construct state. Because if we look at the word devar, normally we would receive, well, normally we'd look at the word davar and it would function in its normal vowelization, all right? Davar. That's what we normally see when we think of the word davar, which means word or thing, okay? So here, in this case, we see that it's in its construct state because it is the first noun in the noun construct, okay? So here we have word, and then we have the word Moshe, because this is, once again, we're transliterating the proper noun, Moshe. Now, what do we have to do with the noun construct? When you have a noun construct and you have the second noun, which is the absolute, and it's definite, like we see here, then we have to change the status of the first noun. So we're literally going to say Moshe, and we're going to put the word, and so in English we're literally going to say the word of Moshe. Remember, we talked about this before, that noun constructs is the grammatical way of using the statement of. Okay? Whenever we're going to be utilizing of in any kind of a statement, cup of tea, bowl of milk, table of fruit, these are the things we're going to find always put in this noun construct form. And so therefore, you're always going to have of in between your words that you have separated. Davar, word, of, Moshe. Now the grammatical form is what we're looking at to identify when we're looking at noun constructs. We're looking for the grammatical form to signify that this is replacing the concept of what we use in English of. It's something to remember and think about, because this is what I use all the time whenever I'm trying to come up with something to look at from the grammatics of it. Is the fact that in a noun construct, whenever I'm looking at the translation where of is going to be used, I know that this form is replacing the grammatical word of, as we see in English, okay? So Davar Moshe, the word of Moshe. Remember, the is going to be placed on here because Moshe is definite. So the word of Moshe. So if this was, for example, let's say the word was Ha'ish, Davar Ha'ish, then this would mean the word of the man. So you would notice you'd say the word of the man. And so therefore you'd have to remember both times you'd have to write the definite article the for both. Even though here the only definite article would be on the absolute form. Okay? Asher. So now we have our relative pronoun. So here, this is the relative pronoun. Asher, which, or it can be said as that. Okay? So asher, so I'm going to use which in this case. Asher, which, and then of course down here we have the last word, dibarta. Dibarta. So what do we need to go and remember with regard to dibarta? Well, dibarta, remember, this has a dagesh after the second root letter. We know that this is going to be a verb because why? Because, well, if we remember our endings, we should know that ta is used only for the masculine form, second person. So we know that's the you, all right? So what would be left would be resh, bet, and dalet, okay? So here in this case, we're going to define this as being the PL form. So PL is the verb form, okay? And we know that this is an intensified case because only the PL verbs are the ones we use for intensification, okay? And so we know that by looking at the root, dalet, bet, resh, we have the actual root to speak. So this here would be, you spoke. Remember, this is past tense because the noun, whenever it's on the end of the verb, is always going to be the past tense. When it's at the beginning of the verb, like we see here, it's always going to be future tense. So now we go back to the statement, Vayomer Hiskiyahu, and Hiskiyahu said, El unto Yeshayahu. What did he do? He said, Tov. So here's the statement he said, Tov divar Moshe. Good is the word of Moshe, asher which dibarta you spoke. And this is important for us to remember, that when we're looking at words, that we should understand the fact that with nouns, remember, you can break apart the nouns and find the roots. Some of them are not as simple as others, but some others are very simple. Like, for example, the word Moshe. Moshe is actually an Egyptian word, which comes to literally mean in Egypt, it's the word Masha. Masha means to draw out. So we're going to find that a lot of times when we're reading Torah or Tanakh, and when we're looking at the Hebrew words, we're going to find there's going to be a culmination of different forms of Semitic words that are going to be incorporated in the actual text. Whether it's an Egyptian word, whether it's going to be a word that is going to be maybe Aramaic or Arabic. And these are the things that we really just have to understand with regard to the issue of the scriptures. And what we find is how very closely Semitic languages is, and you want to really understand that it's really not hard. When somebody sits there and says, "Oh, I learned Ugaritic," I mean, it's honestly they're not telling you that they learned something that was really just difficult. Okay, once you grasp the understanding of how Semitic language works, they're all sisters. They're all connected. You can easily pull the roots from each of these different languages, and you'll get an understanding of what they mean, because the roots are very similar. And since they're based upon a root structure, it's easy to actually figure out. It's like, it's not very hard to learn Aramaic. It's not hard to learn Arabic. It's not hard to learn a Semitic language once you've already learned one, because you find that they're all closely related to each other. It'd be like the difference between learning English and then learning, like, English that you would see like in Shakespeare and stuff. It's not very difficult. You don't have to go very far to figure out what's being said. So, without further ado, we'll see you next time as we go to chapter 16 and we continue our lessons of learning Biblical Hebrew.